Right, everybody, this is Paddy Lawrence. Just getting back to Jim Sweeney's reply to me saying, putting it straight. Now, Jim, you're put out there, you're a nice fella, you're a nice guy, and you're far from it. Now, when you tell a story, you're as well to tell it from the beginning and tell the truth what happened. Now, I'll explain what happened. Right. Now, a few years ago, there was a mass on for Patrick Sweeney to arrest him. And we had it in the ferry. Now, we were at it, right? Now, John, this is John Sweeney, Mike's fellow John. John was there and he started acting a blackguard on the same day. I told John to behave himself. John tried to give me a false thump with a key in his hand. Anyways, I give John a few clouds. No big deal, that was it. A couple of days later, Michael Sweeney, my father-in-law, came down with a challenge to me. Now, John, there's only 4 years in difference of me and you, that's what it is. But Michael brought down a challenge to me to fight his son David, who's 10 years younger. Now, that didn't bother me either. Now, Michael, you turn around and I accepted. I said, okay, no problem. You turn around and asked my son to fight your son Edward, to arrest him, or Stephen. Now, Edward's alive at the time. Now, that's a grandfather giving a challenge to a grandson. Now, I hope to God and bless the lady that no family ever goes through this, that where a grandfather comes with a challenge to his grandson. It should never happen. My woman came out and she was blood boiling, which would happen. She started giving off to you, Michael. You shouldn't have been down challenges in the first place. But look, that was neither here or there. We'll move on from that. Michael, shortly after that, you ended up in hospital. Right? And you had to go and get some stents into your heart. Now, when we heard the word that you were in hospital, right, you were 2 days in that hospital when we found out. So, what was raining down, Jim, you rang down and you said to Bridget, right, Bridget, you can come up to the hospital yourself, but tell Paddy not to come, because if there is, there's going to be trouble. Now, at the end of the day, Michael, you're up in the hospital, Bridget went up there, and Mark Sweeney was there, the arrested man, and I tell you he was a gentleman. And Mark turned around, he said, this trouble is no good, he said, it's ridiculous, he said, Michael, you and Paddy always got on, he said, whatever happened to boys can be left behind him. Now, the man's gone, and may he have a bed in heaven. But that's what he said. Now, Michael, me and you always got on. And you said to me years ago, you said, the only reason that we ever fell out was over your sons. And that's facts. Okay, we'll move on from that. Myself and your son David went out and had a few clouds. And Joe Joyce and his sons showed us fair play. And to tell you the truth, they went straight down the middle. Fair play it was. We boxed for a while. Okay, at the end of the day, when it was over, we didn't shake hands because David didn't want to shake hands. That's no big deal. Right? We moved on from that as well. Now, after that, there was no contact made from neither side. And each one got on their own lives. Mike Doyle died, the rest of him, and we went to that funeral. Michael, I seen you at that funeral, and you never spoke to me, and I didn't speak to you. Your sons was there, right? I was there. No big deal at the end of the day. None of us made contact with each other. Now, after that, Teresa ended up in hospital, the rest of her soul, and may God give her bed in heaven. And she ended up in the hospital, so she did. And she was a few days in the hospital before my wife Bridget found out. So when Bridget found out, she went up to the hospital straight away. Now, Bridget was up there every morning, right? And you're right, it is a long journey from Galway to Sligo. But she was up there every morning because her family was coming in the evening, her brothers and sisters was. So there was no conflict. Michael, you came along, this is all Michael Sweeney, you came along and you told Bridget that her mother, the rest of her, had cancer. But no one thought it was as severe as what it was. Now, me and your family wasn't getting on, Michael. And this is what Mike Sweeney told you. We weren't getting on, and there was no contact made with us, and the same vice versa. Now, to tell you the God's truth, Teresa was like a second mother to me, and I would love the competence here. But because she didn't want to argue in the hospital, there was no point going up there, because that's what was going to happen. Not on my side, but on Michael's side. The doctor turned around and the doctor said to my wife Bridget, he said, if you have any family to contact, you want to contact now because she's there Teresa, and the rest of her, started taking a turn, her mother. So Bridget did. She rang Michael Sweeney, and she told him, Michael, Dad, whatever, come down here, told him the story. He got into contact with everyone and told him to come down. Now, Michael, you can make a liar of me this if you want. And that's all you have to do is come up and just and see it. You turn around and you said to Bridget, you said that David said that he wouldn't come into the hospital if you were in it. My wife turned around and she said, I am not leaving this hospital. Now, later on that evening, David did come in. Now, my young ones went up to the hospital that evening. Now, I didn't go up and my son Michael went up because we weren't going up there in order to keep trouble down. Now, later on that evening, when my girls was there, my girls was told that they weren't wanted there. That's when Teresa passed away and arrested her. And God give her a bed in heaven. Right, I rang you, Michael Sweeney, my father-in-law. And Michael, me and you always got on. And when I was talking to you on the phone, Jim comes along and Jim takes the phone out of your hand. When Jim took the phone out of your hand, he comes on the phone and he says to me, Paddy, come to the funeral, come to the funeral. And I said, I was coming to it anyways, Jim, which it was. He said, there'll be no trouble. And I said, Jim, there should be no talk about trouble now at this time. No, listen, Paddy, he said, if you come up here, he said, if any trouble happens, I'll do the fighting for you. I'll fight them in my house or your house. Now, that's the gospel truth, Jim. Now, I can take my hand on the Bible. That's what you said. And you can't do that, but I can. So I said, Joe, look, Jim, I said, I don't need no one to fight for me, and I'm able to fight for myself. I said, you shouldn't be talking that. I said, your mother's after passing. And I didn't ring up to talk to you. I said, I ring up to talk to your father. You turned around and you were like, no, I'll do the fighting. Please, just keep quiet, Joe. And I told you I didn't give a fuck for your brothers. That's what I said. Jim, you got vexed and you hung up the phone. That's what happened there. Now, after a day or two, right, young Michael Sweeney came as far as me and he said, my father arranged a private viewing for you, Paddy, Bridget, and the children. So I said, fine. But at the end of the day, there should be no private viewing. Right? If we're all in one family, this should have been for everyone to go in and see this together. But there was a private viewing held anyways, and me and my wife, my family, we went to it, and so did Michael, young Michael Sweeney, and his woman and his kids. Now, when we were at the viewing, now, Michael, I'm not trying to land you in this is facts I'm saying. And you're the kind of man who'll tell the truth, that'll be bad or good, you'll fucking say it out. You turned around to me, Michael, and you said, if any troubles happen at the funeral, right, I ain't standing with you, Paddy. And I said to you, you can't, Michael. I said, because at the end of the day, I said, this is your mother's funeral. I said, and you can't be having brother against brother fighting. That's facts. You turn around, no, if it kicks off, I'm in. I said, Michael, what is wrong with you? I said, it's not time for trouble, and there should be no arguments. That's what I said. Now, the morning the funeral came, and I put my hand on the Bible, right, and I'll take me out on this, right. Teresa Sweeney was my mother-in-law, the rest of her, and she was like a second mother to me. Now, I was caught in a situation, if I go to that funeral and trouble happens, right, then it looks like it was me that caused it. That's facts. So I had a decision to make, and I took a decision which I thought was right, and I said, I'm not going, and my young fella didn't go. And that's what happened there. And along with that, you know yourself, Michael, when I said to you, there was a bit of trouble started at that funeral, right? My mum was in the hearse, and you know what kicked up then, there was all trouble and all there. But anyways, we'll move on from that. Now, when Teresa's funeral was over, the rest of the woman, and I'll give her a bed in heaven, Michael, you and Bridget, my wife, kept in touch, and that was nice to see, because it was father and daughter today, and you should be in touch. That's God's truth. Now, you were getting on well for a long time there, and what happened was, it was a phone call. You and Bridget was on the phone, right? Anyways, the phone battery goes dead, right? And you thought Bridget hung up. Now, that's God's truth. She did not hang up. But anyways, after a couple of days, now, this is young Michael again, he came down after a few days, and he turned around, and he handed Bridget money. And she said, what's this? He said, do you know, he said, the money we're paying in towards the headstone, he said, we're getting the Last Supper. Yes. Dad said to give it back to you. And she said, what's this about? Right. And young Michael turned around and he said, because you hung up the phone. But she said, I didn't hang up the phone. He said, the battery went dead on the phone. Well, he seemed to think that. Now, my woman's heart was broke because this was ridiculous. Now, Michael, tell you God's truth. This is all, Michael. That's whispers in your ear. And I know who the whispering is in your ear as well. Now, after that, right, now we'll skip forward to my brother-in-law Edward Sweeney to arrest him. And this is what happened. I got a phone call from David Sweeney's son Michael. And Michael was asking me, he said, how's your brother-in-law? And I said, what are you on about, Michael? And I hadn't a clue what he was talking, but he filled me in the details anyways. And my woman ended up, she tried to ring her father, no numbers to get through to. The only number she had was young Michael Sweeney. She got through to Michael, and she asked Michael here, and Michael said he didn't. That he'd go as far as the hospital and he find out himself. Now my woman rang the hospital, and everyone knows out there for a fact that if you ring the hospital won't give you any information. They'll tell you to talk to family members. Now, no family members will come to that phone. Now, what happened was when young Mike was up in the hospital, Bridget rang him, got through to him, right? And he said, he's very critical here, he said. He's on my support. Bridget said, I'll be up in a couple of hours because she was driving Sligo to Galway. He turned around and he said, no, don't come up, he said, I'll tell you why, he said, none of them much up here, he said, and neither does Edward's wife. Now, my woman never argued with Edward's wife. She never argued with any of them. The only arguments that ever happened was myself and John and David. Now, my woman couldn't go up to see her brother in the hospital, and that's ridiculous. And at that time, people need to be praying and staying together and doing the right thing. But anyways, that didn't go that way. Now, fair play to Paddy Sweeney and his brother Thomas. They were up in the hospital and they were talking for the lad, myself and Bridget and our family up. Now, that wasn't agreed on. The day came that they knocked off the machines on Edward to arrest him and God give him a bed in heaven. Bridget couldn't go up to the hospital. Now, Paddy Sweeney and Thomas, right, was talking to Michael and the family and trying to convince them for myself and Bridget to go to the funeral. Now, they didn't agree to that. What they agreed to was Bridget go to the funeral herself. Now, Jim, in the recording you said, I said what yet? I didn't say what yet. I said, that night I said, you came on and said, and made calls. Now, listen here quick. Listen good, son. Right? You did. The morning of Edward's funeral, you comes on, right? And you starts reading from my woman, from me, from my children. And I tell you the God's truth. You're not a man with the filthy mouth that you have. And I tell you the truth, do you ever stand in front of me, I put my hands in out through your face. Now that's facts. Now I'll put on a clip for you to hear. And in this clip, it'll tell you for a fact what you're saying. You're saying in the clip, come to the funeral and you're threatening what you do and what you won't do. Now, Jim, don't be making on to be a nice guy because you're not a nice guy. You're far from it. Now, all this trouble will begin with, this is the God's truth, and any man out there who knows Michael Sweeney's son John, knows John is a walking troubled bastard. That's all he is. He caused all this trouble to begin with. I had no problems with Michael's families, never did. It was him that caused the whole lot, and a few more jumped on the bandwagon. Now, this goes out to all Michael Sweeney. Michael, you're nearly 70 years of age, right? And I can tell you this for a fact, right? You have grandchildren here, you have a daughter here that love you. I choose God, whatever happened in the past, Michael, is done and dusted as far as I'm concerned. You might have said things in the past, and as far as I'm concerned, you were under pressure, whatever the reasons you're saying, but it doesn't really matter. Now, as far as I'm concerned, that's what we're done with. Now, at the end of the day, you'll always have a place at your daughter's table where you mightn't at your son. Now, I'll tell you God's truth, right? Don't be a silly man. There's no need to live in badness, listen to other people. That's all it is. And I know you're not bad being a man. That's facts. It's only other ones whispering in your ear. And I know who them ones are. Now, if you're ever in Sligo again, you're more than welcome to call in and see myself and Bridget and your family. And I tell you God's truth, Michael, you'll always have a home with us where you might with your other family. And all the best and take care of yourselves.
Received at 2:43 a.m.
We're back to full church twice. No one's something going to funeral tomorrow. And remember, I'm your boss. I'm Aaron's boss. Understand? The dirty hanger pads. You want to come down, coach, bring Paddy, the lecherous bastard and all he is. Happy like a bastard. Bring him down there. No, first, bring him down. Really catch face bastard. I get you when I swear to I'm going to cut your head off your body. I'm going to bait you like a dog and cut your head off your body. But I can't bait you. You're dead anyway. You dirty sheepdog bastard. You're finished.